Ever since the Burning Shores blessed us with the highly ineffective yet oddly satisfying toy bow, there's been one nagging thought I haven't been able to get out of my mind. Is it really possible to take down the biggest, baddest machines in the Forbidden West using only Abby's toy bow? And I knew I wasn't the only one that had thought about this.
There are dozens of us! Dozens!
I mean, of course it's possible. The bow does damage, a thoroughly underwhelming amount of damage. But can it actually be done? And what would it take? What would give out first? The bow, the machine, or possibly my mind as I descend into madness one suction cup arrow at a time? Come with me on this journey and let's find out together. Now, when I first set out on this mission, I wanted to see if I could defeat the Horus, the granddaddy of all machines. A machine so big and so bad it was used to create the other machines that eventually destroyed the world. So I equipped my toy bow and on very hard difficulty set out on the final mission of the game that would eventually lead me to the Horus. But as I ventured out, I failed to realize just how long it would take me to even get to the Horus in the first place. My plan was to basically stealth my way there, avoiding conflict whenever and wherever possible. And at first, everything was going perfectly. Well, almost perfectly. But it wasn't long before the game forced me into combat, and the only way out was to shoot my way out. First up was 2 Apex Clamorjaws. Clamorjaws? Why did it have to be Clamorjaws? The most annoying machines in the Forbidden West. Even with some of the best weapons of the game, they could prove to be a challenge. But there was no backing down and no time to waste.
Never give up, never surrender.
But after about 20 minutes and barely even making a dent in one of the Clamorjaws' health, I realized one simple yet unmistakable truth.
This will not be over quickly. You will not enjoy this.
I realized I had made a terrible mistake, so I did the only respectable thing that a part-time gamer and full-time Norway champion could do. I bumped the difficulty back down to normal. And after about 20 more minutes, I finally made it past the Clamorjaws, jumped onto my machine bird, and made my way to the Horus. The fight was back on. But the surge in momentum and adrenaline was short-lived as I quickly realized that the toy bow would do absolutely no damage to the Horus's heat sinks. Not only did I need to destroy these heat sinks just to get to the Horus, but these were a vital component to taking down the machine. I sat there for 10 minutes, firing shot after shot, unwilling to accept my fate. It appears as though the machines might have known what they were doing after all. They had built a machine so big and so strong it was impervious to my toy bow and immune to my suction cup arrows. I fired one last barrage of arrows and reluctantly accepted my fate. The machines had won this round. I was defeated but not deterred. I remembered the words of my mentor and faux father figure.
But it looks impossible. Look deeper. And then fight like you can win.
I reloaded my save and went back to the drawing board. But if I wasn't going to be able to beat the Horus with my toy bow, how else was I going to prove myself and assert my dominance as the ultimate apex predator in the Forbidden West? And then my focus reminded me of a data point that I had found off that sunken island on the coast.
Pick out the biggest, baddest, meanest looking convict in the courtyard and him up.
And it was then I knew what I needed to do. I needed to find a Slaughterspine. With my renewed sense of optimism and hope, I quickly regrouped at my campsite and fast-traveled my way to the nearest Slaughterspine. But when I got there, some over-eager Tanakh had already decided to take him out. In a fit of rage, I rushed into battle, landing shot after shot. They would pay for what they've done. I'm not sure if they were completely unfazed by my toy bow, or perhaps they just felt sorry for me. But they didn't seem too interested in fighting back. That's okay, I knew my fight wasn't with them, so I once again fast-traveled back to the site to confront my real foe. Rushing into the battle, it felt great. I knew every move the Slaughterspine was going to throw at me and felt confident that I could get through this with no problem. I mean, I have already killed 78 Slaughterspines. Out of all the heavyweight machines in the game, this is the one that I had killed the most. I knew all their moves and had an answer to anything they could throw at me. It was a delicate dance, and I knew all the steps.
Let's go to work.
The laser light show from the tail, slide to the right. The charging mouthful of sand, slide to the left. The barrage of plasma bombs from the spine, reverse, reverse. I even knew how to cha-cha my way out of taking damage from a plasma blast by dodging at just the right time. My confidence was sky high.
Give it up, baby. I've studied all your moves.
Day 1 of the battle went off without a hitch. 2 heavyweights in the ring, trading body blows, feeling out their opponent, neither of us gaining any sort of advantage. But then, I'm not sure if it was the monotony of repetition or the copious amounts of wild berries I had eaten, but just as the sun started to set, I think I started to hallucinate. lulled into some sort of dreamlike psychosis. My imagination began to run wild. I started seeing the Slaughterspine as more than just a bloodthirsty dinosaur machine dead set on destroying me and everything I cared about. I named him Benny, and started thinking about what Benny's life was like before I had showed up on this beach, and began pelting him incessantly with a child's toy. I thought about the cauldron he grew up in, and started seeing him more as a protector of this beach rather than its doom. This was his home, and I was the invader. And if I looked closely, I swear I could see sadness behind Benny's eyes. He hadn't chosen this. This was my doing. But there was no going back now. One way or another, one of us wasn't gonna walk away.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
But a new day brought new perspective, and around the 2-hour mark, I started to realize that I had a serious problem. See, it wasn't the madness or even the plasma that was going to defeat me in this challenge. It all boiled down to one simple yet unmistakable thing: Ridgewood. That's right, Ridgewood. Perhaps the most abundant resource in the Forbidden West. If you've played this game for even just 5 minutes, you'll probably have somewhere between 1,000 and 1,000,000 pieces of Ridgewood in your inventory. But with all the suction cup arrows I had to craft, I was quickly running out. I looked at Benny's health bar, saw my dwindling Ridgewood stash, and knew I had a problem. I wandered around the area as much as I could looking for more Ridgewood, but came up completely empty. There was literally none to be found. How was that even possible? Benny must have known I was coming, and he completely cleaned out the area. See, Benny had been playing the long game all along, and he had won. It was in that moment I had to ask,
what the hell is going on?
No plan is proceeding as expected.
I'm in charge.
Do you feel in charge?
all of a sudden, this was not going according to plan. And I realized the sadness I saw in his eyes wasn't for himself, it was for me. And I knew that after more than 2 hours, I wasn't going to be able to complete my mission. But after realizing I had been bested by a worthy opponent, did I hold my head up high and choose a warrior's death? Pfft, no. I took my toy bow and ran home to my base to tell my fairy Gaia mother what Benny had done. She explained to me that I didn't have a Slaughterspine problem, I had a math problem. And I explained to her that I grew up as an outcast in a van down by the river and had no idea what she was talking about. She broke it down for me like I was a child. She said a non-apex Slaughterspine on normal difficulty has 7,500 HP, and the toy bow does 1 HP of damage per hit. So in order to defeat the Slaughterspine, you need 7,500 arrows. I wasn't sure where she was going with this, but I nodded in agreement anyway. To craft 15 arrows, she said, it cost 1 shard and 2 Ridgewood, but you can only carry 500 Ridgewood in your stash at any given time. This was getting intense, but sensing that I was completely lost, she finally got to the point. You can only craft 3,750 arrows, she said, with the 500 Ridgewood you have in your stash, assuming you don't find any other Ridgewood during the fight, which would leave you 3,750 arrows short of defeating the Slaughterspine. So it was back to the drawing board to find out what was even the maximum difficulty I could play on to defeat the Slaughterspine. I needed a place where I could clear my mind and think. Oh good, a dirty toilet, that'll be perfect. Now I knew that at this point, if I hit a weak spot on the machine, I could get 2 HP of damage, and under the right circumstances and with the right Valor Surge, I could get 3 HP or even the occasional, very rare 5 HP of damage. But I couldn't count on that with any sort of consistency. And as unlikely as it was, I also needed to account for the occasional miss shot. But even on easy difficulty, a Slaughterspine has 6,000 HP. It would still more than likely leave me about 1,000 arrows short. The only respectable thing I could do was bump the difficulty all the way down to story mode, which would leave the Slaughterspine 2,745 HP, well within my range and craftability. And just like that, I had my plan. Did it hurt my pride a little turning the difficulty down so low? It was basically the video game version of a slap fight. A little, but nothing hurt worse than the sting of getting so close and then coming up short. I couldn't, no I wouldn't underestimate my enemy again. The time had finally come. I was ready to suit up and prepare for battle. There'd be no more excuses this time, and no more distractions. It would just be me, the Slaughterspine, and the toy oh, me, not these guys again. Okay, hang on.
Big mistake!
Alright, now that I got that out of my system, where was I? Oh yeah, the Slaughterspine. I quickly ran up to the Slaughterspine, who I affectionately named Benny 2, and activated my Valor Surge right away to show Benny 2 that I meant business. Now believe me when I say, at this point, I've been fighting Slaughterspines with the toy bow for about 10 or so hours. I've tried every single Valor Surge in the book, anything I could use to potentially give me some sort of advantage. Most of them did absolutely nothing, and even typically dependable Valor Surges like Critical Boost were rendered useless and completely ineffective by the toy bow. And others, like Power Shots, were fine but just didn't last long enough. But there was one that stood out amongst the crowd. A beacon of hope that I wouldn't spend my twilight years on this beach with nothing but Benny 2 and this toy bow to keep me company. And that was the Defy Death Valor Surge. I didn't know just what kind of old world recipe was in this little brown jug, but I do know that it took my health down real low. So low that it made me nearly invincible. It didn't make any sense, but
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
it became my go-to and I used it as often as I could. Now to keep my mind sharp this time, I tried experimenting with different ways to avoid taking damage from a plasma blast explosion. I knew dodging it just the right time worked and had that down to a science. Running and jumping in the water also worked, but you had to go out far enough to actually swim in it, which wasn't ideal. But would anything else work? As it turns out, yeah. Activating your Valor Surge at just the right time also works, and is actually a lot easier to pull off. The trick is to wait until the plasma timer runs all the way down, and then wait just a half a second longer. Trigger your Valor Surge and the animation will completely negate the plasma blast. Ooh, Benny 2 did not like that one bit. But as the sun started to set on day 2 of battle, it became clear that this would be Benny 2's last night on this beach, and he could sense it too. He was mostly keeping his distance now, as if to shoo me away, but I was so close to victory I could taste it. The smell of stale plasma and red suction cups lingered in the air, and I activated my Valor Surge one last time. This would be it. It had all come down to this. Benny 2 mustered up enough strength for one last barrage of plasma, and belted out a final scream as the last suction cup arrow flew through the air. And just like that, it was over. Benny 2 was finally at peace. And after 2 hours and 21 minutes, I achieved victory. I defeated a Slaughterspine with nothing but the toy bow. And after all was said and done, what would I do now? Where would I go from here? I went back to my shelter and just watched the sun set on a grateful universe. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for what's next for Aloy and her adventures. I'm quickly nearing 1,000 hours played in the Forbidden West and have a special challenge in mind to celebrate the occasion, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.